Did the Georgia Bulldogs get exposed last night at Missouri? Now, Georgia got out with the win 26-22, but this is the second time in 2 weeks we've seen Georgia look a little bit lackluster against a team they really should have just taken to the woodshed. Last week against Kent State, they were like 44-point favorites. Last night, they were 30-point favorites. Both times played with their food. The majority of this game, it felt like you're just waiting for Georgia to be Georgia. At half, Missouri was up 16-6. We saw the Bulldogs actually on the ropes. Welcome into the Hard Count. I'm JD Pickell. We would love to have you along for the ride. We have a live show tonight at 7 Eastern, 6 Central, recapping all of the beautiful thing that was Week 5 in college football. Let's talk about the good, let's talk about the bad for Georgia, and then we'll give you our answer to this thing ultimately at the end of the video. Was Georgia exposed? Well, the good is when you needed to run the football, when the chips were down, when it was make or break time, Georgia was able to just lean on those big boys up front and lean on the physicality of what they have on that roster. Now, that is a lot easier to say than to do. To have that in your back pocket as a program is crucial. It also shows a lot of character. One of the things Kirby Smart was really excited about in his press conference after this game, he said, I just love that we continue to fight. Winning at halftime, we're down, no panic. Nobody's breaking glass and getting nervous. Everybody just knew what they had to do, went forward, executed, and won the game. But again, if we're talking about Georgia being a team that's going to repeat as a national champion, a team that's going to win the SEC and play for a college football playoff, all of those things, great teams don't have stretches like this where we see them, I don't want to say fall off, but again, there were times last night where you're watching this Georgia team and you're just saying, why aren't they putting it into gear? Even more so if you're being a little more pessimistic, why can't they put it into gear? And that's, I think, what we got to look at when we're talking about some of the concerns going forward. Now, you won on the road ugly. That's great. You got to do that to be one of the elite programs in college football that Georgia is. But what are the things that concern you from last night? Well, it took you a whole half to get going. And that's great that you can win at Missouri. There's no such thing as a bad win. But you look at this stretch the rest of the way for Georgia, and no disrespect to the Tigers, but Missouri is not necessarily a team that's the similar caliber left on their schedule. Let's see. They got Florida at the end of October. Then you have Tennessee at home. And then you go to Mississippi State. We saw what they did to A&M last night. They are a dangerous team. If they catch Georgia on the right day, if Georgia wants to play like they did last night against Missouri, that one could get a little bit tricky for the Dogs. And then you go to Kentucky. Kentucky, another physical program. They're going to give Georgia some issues if they want to play like they did yesterday. And that's sort of the key thing that we're talking about, right? If Georgia brings a certain percentage of their A game, last night's not even a contest. They're covering that 30 with ease. Chase Daniels was saying he's going to pick up the tab for the drinks if Missouri ends up beating Georgia. That didn't happen, but if Georgia wanted to play about 10% less of what they're capable of last night, Chase Daniels' wallet would be hurting this morning. You see where I'm coming from? The rest of the season for Georgia is about Georgia. They have so much ability on this roster. They got so much under the hood. But if they don't want to bring the percentage that's required that day, well, they're going to have issues. So here's the thing that I think we need to talk about ultimately. Was Georgia exposed, right? Did we see Georgia show some chinks in the armor last night? No. We didn't see Georgia exposed because it's so early in the year you're still learning a lot about Georgia as a whole. If you wanted to compare them to last year's team, that's a mistake. Folks, this isn't last year's team. They have 8 new starters on defense. Is there a drop-off in talent? Absolutely not. If you want to say there's a drop-off in talent, I think you're being a little bit nitpicky because every single guy on this defense can play. Now, is there a drop-off in experience? Very much so. And that's what I think you're beginning to see more and more of developing within this program. The cause for concern is in 2 separate games, you have failed to start fast. You have failed to get out of the gates hot and treat like a faceless opponent. They can't come out and play that way against Florida. They can't come out and play that way against Tennessee. Or we're having a completely different conversation, a completely different video on a Sunday morning. So is Georgia exposed? No. Is there some things they need to be shored up within that program? Absolutely. I will say this, though. Stetson Bennett is going to take a lot of heat for the way that Georgia played last night. And that's fair. He didn't light the world on fire. But I want to be careful that we don't fall back into the Stetson Bennett bias. Because if Caleb Williams has an off night, his team finds a way to win, well, hey, good for Caleb Williams. Gritty performance. talented guy, he'll get it right. Bryce Young, same thing. He has an off night for 3 quarters, gets it going in the last drive. Good for Alabama, good for Bryce Young. That's what great players do. Stetson Bennett has an off night, and they find a way to win. It's, whoa. Why is he the best guy for the job? Carson Beck's back there. He's got a lot of stars. Stetson Bennett, is he the best guy to get this thing going forward? Absolutely. You have the right guy pulling the trigger for Georgia. There's just some things that are going to come together. Now, you are grateful to learn those things during a win rather than a loss, but Georgia is very much so not a finished product. And we're going to make sure we get a accurate sample size of Georgia the rest of the way. We're going to get it. I just told you who they got to play. If Georgia gets to where a lot of people think they're going to get to, the college football playoff in Atlanta for the SEC title game, they will have earned that in full. Are they exposed? Absolutely not. Is there cause for concern? I wouldn't be overly concerned, but is this unfortunate to see in 2 games from the defending national champs? Yeah, they got some things to clean up. That's it for us here on the Hard Count. We appreciate you tuning in. Subscribe to the channel. We are live on this channel tonight, 7 Eastern, 6 Central, recapping everything that happened on your college football Saturday yesterday. We want you along for the ride. Don't miss a minute of it. So we will see y'all tonight. And until then, we're going to keep the party rolling, and we will see y'all next time.